expectations we view at the beginning of each class. You all do an amazing job at these, so I'm going to move on to our icebreaker question for the day. We're trying it out here in a little different format just to use Padlet. So the icebreaker question for this week is Halloween themed. I'm really excited for Halloween. Big fan of the holiday, and so I kind of put some pictures up here for you to look at of some pumpkins and jack-o'-lanterns, some caramel apples. It does fall on a Monday this year, so I'll probably be watching Monday Night Football. The Nightmare Before Christmas is a good movie, and all the candy, all the delicious candy. So in the chat, you are going to see the link for the Padlet. And there are 4 different prompts and a plus button at the bottom of each shelf. So the prompts you're going to be answering, and you should be answering all 4 of them, are something fun that you did over the weekend, what your favorite Halloween candy is, your favorite Halloween outfit, and any plans you may have for Halloween. So as you can kind of see here, the directions say answer the following questions below at the start of your History Class Connect and see Ms. G's example if needed. Make sure to write which class you have Ms. G for within your name or description. So an example here is Caitlin P, 8th grade Global Studies. So you would write your name, 7th grade US Studies. So I'll give some time to work on these, and then I'll read some of them out loud for us. But I'll kind of just start with mine. So I went to a wedding over the weekend at Central Lutheran Church in downtown Minneapolis, which was super fun. It was a really pretty church. And then the reception was at the depot. So the depot was this old train station back in the day, and it's just really beautiful and like an historic venue. My favorite Halloween candy is Albanese World's Best gummy bears. They're really delicious. I bought these like snack size ones, so the gummy bears are like teeny. They're like that big. And then Ghirardelli chocolate, they have a seasonal one right now. It is a caramel apple. So good. My favorite Halloween outfit was when I dressed up as Dorothy from The Wizard of Oz one year. And finally, my Halloween plans are either watching Hocus Pocus 2. I still have not gotten there yet. I'm really hoping I do so over the weekend or on Monday, or I'll be watching Monday Night Football. So those are mine. And we'll start seeing some responses here. So I see I had a hockey tournament or game, I'm guessing. Practice? Jake, is that you? Hockey of some
Yeah,
sort?
I had a bunch of hockey over the weekend, and I'm leaving for a hockey tournament tomorrow.
Nice. Where are you going? Like, where's the tournament?
Is it in Hermantown, Dad? Rochester. That's where.
Rochester. Okay, so it's like an hour-ish away for you guys, like not too far.
Yeah.
Nice. Okay, I played outside with my friends. I watched a movie with my family. Chaz, you went to a museum in Minneapolis. Which one, if you feel like sharing? And then, okay, let's see some of the favorite Halloween candies here. I scroll down here. We have Kit Kat and Reese's Pieces, M&Ms and Smarties. My favorite Halloween candy is Twix. Nice. Those are a good variety right there. Let's see some of the outfits. Scream, Wayne Gretzky, Darth Vader, and a huge Star Wars fan. It was awesome. Nice. I'm a big Star Wars fan myself too, and anytime I go to like a Disney property, I love going to like their Star Wars themed areas. So I'm hoping that Disneyland has the same when I go there in November. Let's see here. I haven't been to Disneyland in quite a while, but I think they do have like a Star Wars area that just came in the last few years. An alien and a pumpkin man, a flamingo. That one's pretty unique and different. Now let's see for the plans for Halloween. Oh, another football too. Yay. Trick or treating. set up my 12-foot skeleton in my driveway. That's really neat, really big too, and hand out some candy. And then I'm going trick-or-treating with my friend. Yay, awesome. And two, if you haven't had the moment to put your response in the chat, I will also, or I mean, in the Padlet, I will put the link in the chat and you can go back and do that later. But thank you everyone for contributing here today. I'm going to exit out of this and you can keep working on it or come back to it if you need to. But that was our icebreaker for today. So this week we are starting on a new unit in U.S. Studies. So we're looking at the courts and specifically different Supreme Court cases that involve teenagers, middle and high school kids. So the first assignment we're doing for the week is lesson 2.01, which we're looking at the structure of the U.S. court system. So that includes the state court up to the district and then finally up to the Supreme Court. So if you want to think about our court system, it is a hierarchical system. So you have the lower state courts down at the bottom, up to the district, and then up to the Supreme Court. So state, each state has their own one. And then district is usually a few states. I think Minnesota's in the 8th district. So we're like with Iowa, North Dakota, South Dakota, kind of some of the other Midwestern states. It kind of carves out like that. So that is our first assignment. It's about a 6-minute video on Edpuzzle, so it shouldn't take too long. And then the second assignment is different teen Supreme Court cases. We're looking at 5 different court cases. There are 2 different articles that are provided, and then you're just going to be filling out the chart that I provide as you're doing the reading. And I'll pull all these assignments up for you to look at so you can see them. And then if you have any questions for me, you can ask them. So then the last assignment here is lesson 2.03, which is our quiz for the week. It is a summative quiz, so you're going to want to try your absolute best on this quiz, and you may use your notes from the previous lesson while completing the quiz. You will receive 2 different attempts, so you will be given the highest of the 2 scores. So if you would like a 3rd attempt, if you're not happy with your 2nd attempt, just let me know and I'll probably open it back up for you. But those are the 3 assignments. And then here on our Schoology page, if you scroll all the way down to the bottom, we are in quarter 1, week number 8. So you can see it says U.S. court system and famous teen cases. Oh no, I'm glitching. I didn't even see that. Was anybody else having some issues with me glitching? No. Okay. If you're still experiencing some problems, I would recommend logging off and coming back in, and I'll let you right back in. Sorry, I didn't see that earlier. So here is the first assignment with the court system. You'll see it's about a 6-minute video. Along the way, you just stop and answer questions, and then it'll let you move on throughout the Edpuzzle. That's the first one. The second assignment, you'll see the readings are up here, so you can click on them there. Or you could also go within the assignment, and I have them hyperlinked within the assignment too. So these links are right here. So the first one is Mary Beth Tinker versus Des Moines. So that was in Iowa. And then the other 4 cases are all together in the same article. So that's the second assignment. And then I'm going to stop sharing here for a second so I can pull up the third one, the quiz. Oops, sorry, didn't mean to share that. Okay, let's see here. I have 2 screens, so it went to the first screen. There we go. So here's what the quiz looks like. So it is pretty much multiple choice and true false questions, and some drop down questions too. Just gonna answer to the chat there. Okay, so I'm going to stop here and then ask if there are any questions before we move on to the Edpuzzle for today. And if you're ready to move on, just give me a thumbs up, or if you have a question in the chat, just let me know. Thanks, Grayson. Thank you, everyone. Sorry, just fixing something right now. Okay, here we go. Gotta open up the Edpuzzle. Okay, so here's how you get to our Edpuzzle. So you're gonna go to the Class Connect folder. So it'll say Ms. G's Class Connect Live and Recordings. And then you're gonna go to the pink folder, and then I have to publish it right now. So I'm just gonna do that. And it'll be in the Wednesday, October 26th recording and assignments. So you're going to look for this, and it says Supreme Court Procedures Edpuzzle. Yes, Jake.
Do we have to do this or no?
Yes, we're doing this together as a class.
Oh, all right.
Yep. So there should be
Very nice.
11 of you here today. So there'll be 11 of us on the Edpuzzle.
Ms. Glansman,
Yes.
what would I have to click again? You glitched out when you were telling me the instructions.
Oh, sure. So what you're going to do, I'll just make a copy of this right here and I'll show you how to get there. So you're going to go in our US Studies page and then scroll down to Miss G's Class Connect Live and Recordings. And then within there, there is a pink folder that says Miss G's Class Connect Recordings and Assignments. And then you're going to scroll down to today's date and you will see, so today is Wednesday, October 26th. And then you'll see Supreme Court Procedures Edpuzzle.
Thanks.
Yep, you're welcome. Okay, so we have 8 currently. So we're waiting for 3 more here. Could you try refreshing your page? So it should be there in the Class Connect folder under today's date. So in our US Studies page, you're going to scroll down to the pink folder that says Miss G's Class Connect Live and Recordings. And then you're going to go down to the pink folder within the pink folder. It says Miss G's Class Connect Recordings and Assignments. And then Wednesday, October 26th, recording and assignment. And then it'll be right there. It says Supreme Court Procedures Edpuzzle. Okay, I'm going to get started. And if you're unable to join here live with us, you can just go back and do it on your own time too.
The first thing you need to take a case to the Supreme Court is a case or controversy. And except in certain rare situations where the court has original jurisdiction, that case has to have already been heard and decided by a lower court and appealed. And not just once. Before a case gets to the Supreme Court, you have to have exhausted your appeals at lower levels of the state or federal system. If you've lost your previous appeals but still think that you have an issue worthy of the court's attention, you can petition for a writ of certiorari, which people in the know call the cert, because they're keeping it cash, which is short for casual. For a look at how the court chooses cases, let's go to the thought bubble, or the thubub. A lot of nicknames today, Stan.
Okay, so what is the first thing you need in order to have your case heard by the Supreme Court? A problem with the jury, a Harvard-educated legal team, or a case or controversy? What do we think it is? Yes, so it is the third one. So that is a case or controversy. Is it not working? I'm not seeing any answers coming through. So it's the third one, a case or controversy. And then Eliana, I was just typing back to you right now. Oh, that's right. So you have to answer the second one first for it to work. Okay. What must have happened prior to your case being considered by the Supreme Court? You must have a bench trial with jurisdiction of Washington, D.C.'s District Court. You must have exhausted your appeals at the lower level, or you must have an issue with your civil suit at the local level. Which one do we think it is? Jake? Yep, 2. 2 is the correct answer. So it is, you must have exhausted your appeals at the lower level. So you keep going through the lower level courts, working your way up. You bring your writ of cert to the attention to see if it's worthy of being seen at the Supreme Court level. So if you haven't answered yet, remember it is you must have exhausted your appeals at the lower level. Yes, Eliana. Do you have a question? Did you accidentally raise your hand? So the case or controversy. And then what we're talking about the appeals at the lower
Or
level.
ST. Certiorari is a formal request that the Supreme Court hear your case, but petitioning for a writ is no guarantee of anything. The federal government's chief lawyer, the Solicitor General, is basically like a bouncer at a hot club, if you're old enough to get into a hot club. They screen out a lot of petitions because those cases don't raise a lot of federal law questions or because they've already been decided in other cases. Or they're not wearing good enough shoes to get in the club. If, and it's a big if, your petition is granted, it goes into the cert pool, the first round in which the justices decide which cases they're actually going to decide. The list of cases that will be decided is called the discussion list. For the judges to actually hear the case, called granting certiorari, 4 of the 9 justices have to agree to hear it. This is called the rule of 4.
Okay, so what is a writ of certiorari? The written approval for a constitutional amendment, the legal request for a new lawyer, or a formal request to have your case heard by the Supreme Court. Yes, Batman was in the pool. So which one do we think it is? So I see Wyatt or Corbin is holding up 3. What else? Do we think it's 3? Yes. So that is the correct answer. It is a formal request to have your case heard by the Supreme Court. I will give you a little more time here before we move on, since it's a double question again. Yes, Jake.
I'm flipping from the Class Connect to the thing. So when I went back to the thing, it just
Yes.
says waiting for classmates to respond, and it's just loading. So
Do you want to try joining back in on it? Otherwise, too, you could do what I've recommended to another student. So following along, answering the questions and just writing it down so you can go back and like answer it later.
I can do that.
Thanks, Jake. Sorry about that.
It's fine.
Okay, so what is the rule of 4? The rule in place to protect a case from being overturned. The required vote for a veto to be overturned, or a case can only be heard by the Supreme Court if 4 of the 9 justices agree to hear it. Which one is it? Yep, Grayson, you have the correct answer. So in order for these writs to be able to be heard, there needs to be 4 justices who agree to say this is an important enough case that needs to be brought to the federal level for us to listen and hear it. Yep, Chaz, it's 3.
Miss Glansman,
Yes.
it still says that it's waiting for you to go live. I don't know what's going on. I think it's my Wi-Fi.
Okay, no worries. So kind of what I said to Jake, what I would do is just write down the answers, and then when we're done with the class, you can go back and just do it on your own time and just click all the answers that we discussed.
Okay, I'll try when you're not glitching.
Okay, I'll write it in the chat for you.
All right, thank you.
Yep. And then I'll start back up the video for everyone.
The discussion of the discussion list and decision about whether or not to grant certiorari happens at the conference, which is like the back of the club where the really well-dressed people go. So the judges have read your petition, and 4 of them have decided that your case is one of about 80 that they will hear. Congratulations! Now you and the side that disagrees with your position have to submit briefs. Briefs are not underwear. Briefs are written legal arguments from each side explaining why the law favors their position. The party bringing the case seeking to overturn the lower court decision is the petitioner. The party that wants the court to uphold or affirm the lower court's decision is called the respondent.
Okay, what does the petitioner of a Supreme Court case want? They want the lower levels court to be overturned, or they want the lower levels court decision to be upheld? Which one is it? And then we can rewatch too if needed. So if they want to win, do they want it upheld or overturned then? Jake. 2. Upheld? Okay. Let's see if that's the correct answer. We'll watch one more time here.
Of your position have to submit briefs. Briefs are not underwear. Briefs are written legal arguments from each side explaining why the law favors their position. The party bringing the case seeking to overturn the lower court decision is the petitioner. The party that wants the court to uphold or affirm the lower court's decision is called the respondent.
So from what I heard, it sounded like they said they wanted the lower court's decision to be overturned. For the petitioner, that's the first one. And the respondent wants it to be upheld. Did anybody else hear that too? Yes. Okay. Wait, you said upheld? Are you sure?
Of your position have to submit briefs. Briefs are not underwear. Briefs are written legal arguments from each side explaining why the law favors their position. The party bringing the case seeking to overturn the lower court decision is the petitioner. The party
I heard overturn. Is that what you guys heard too?
Yeah.
Okay.
that wants the court to uphold
Thanks,
or
everyone.
affirm the lower court's decision is called the respondent.
So it's the first one.
The petitioner also files a reply, which attempts to rebut the respondent, which is not a euphemism. After filing all this, you're finally on your way out of the thought bubble. I mean, you're on your way to court. Thanks, the bub. You might think that there would only be 2 briefs in a case, one from each side, and it's true that there must be at least 2. But often there are many, many more briefs, and even boxer briefs. That's what Stan wears. Stan, put your pants on. All undergarments aside, individuals or groups who are not actually parties to the case but have an interest in the outcome can also file amicus curiae, or friend of the court briefs. Amicus briefs often contain different legal, economic, or historical arguments that can sometimes persuade justices and appear in their opinions. They're also one way that interest groups can attempt to influence the Supreme Court.
Okay, so what is the purpose of amicus briefs? To reject the validity of the petitioner's argument, to persuade or influence the justices of the Supreme Court, or to protect the power of Congress? Jake.
To persuade or influence the justice of the Supreme Court.
Yep. Yep. And then I saw Corbin, you have the same thing there. So it says up here too. So they're just different groups and different people who are trying to influence or have a say. They're like, hey, we want you to look at it in this light. What do you think? Pretty much. So it is to persuade or influence the justices of the Supreme Court. So it is number 2.
After the briefs have been filed, the court schedules oral arguments, giving them time to read and consider the briefs. Each side gets half an hour to make its case, but this time includes questions from the justices, so most of the time is usually spent answering questions. Imagine a presentation with the most intense teacher you've ever had bombarding you with questions, except that there are 9 teachers. Well, 8, because Clarence Thomas never speaks. After oral arguments, you wait for a decision. The justices then meet in another conference, which is held on a Wednesday or a Friday, because there's good TV the other days. In order for the court to render an official decision, 5 of the 9 justices, a majority, must agree on at least one of the legal arguments that either affirms or overturns the lower court's decision. Although they can also send a case back down to the lower court for another decision, which is called a remand. Although, you might call it a punt.
So what is a remand? A football team? The ability of the Supreme Court to return a case to the lower level courts? A Supreme Court ruling that declares a law unconstitutional? Yes. So Eliana, Corbin, and Jake, you were all correct. It is number 2. So as he said, a punt. So they're putting it back down to the lower courts. They're like, we want you to take a look at this. It hasn't met what it needs to be here at the federal level. It's your turn to look at it again. So the second one.
That was like 30 yards. The Chief Justice presides over the conference and assigns the task of writing the court's decision, called the majority opinion. The opinions are given in writing, although sometimes justices will read them from the bench. Sometimes the court will issue a single majority opinion, which is a very strong statement of unified agreement. In the key civil rights case of Brown versus Board of Education, the court issued a single opinion that was even stronger because it was unanimous. But sometimes the court will issue multiple opinions on the same case. The decision of the court, either to affirm or overturn the lower court's ruling, is called the holding. And this is the first thing you need to know in any Supreme Court decision. The second thing that matters is the legal reasoning or rationale behind the holding. If a justice agrees with the holding in the majority opinion, but for different legal reasons, they write a concurring opinion. The rationale in this concurrence is cool and everything, but the lower courts do not need to follow it. Only the holding of the majority and its rationale are binding on lower courts. A single justice writes a concurrence, but other justices can sign on to it if they agree with its logic. For instance, the eagle and I both agree that fish are delicious, but I would write a concurrence that the scales in the eyeballs are gross. It's unlikely this would go to the Supreme Court, though. Let's solve it now. Problem solved. Many Supreme Court cases are not unanimous. In fact, in an ideologically divided court, you are likely to find a lot of cases decided by 5-4 margins.
So true or false? Most Supreme Court cases are unanimous. Do we think that's true or false? Unanimous. So everyone agrees. Everyone is on the same side. They all believe. So yes, it is false. They were talking about how most cases are 5-4. So they're usually split up by the Chief Justice's ideological beliefs. But there have been times where it has been unanimous, but it is very rare. So think, they were talking about the Education Supreme Court decision. That was Brown v. Board of Education was unanimous. So for this one, it is false. Most of the times the decisions are like 5-4 or 6-3 usually. They're very close. So the answer is false.
The judges who are on the losing side, who didn't support the majority decision, can write a dissenting opinion. A dissent does not set a precedent for a lower court and has no force of law. But often dissents are very eloquent and they can provide arguments that might persuade later courts in similar decisions.
Okay, true or false? A dissent carries the weight of the law. False or true? Yep, it's false. So as we can see up here, the dissent does not set a precedent and has no force, but often dissents are pretty much arguments of why they think the majority is wrong and why they think that it should be another way. So this one is false. And their arguments might have a later influence or sway on similar cases that come up in the future.
Sometimes, as with the famously bad case of Plessy versus Ferguson, the arguments in a dissent can form the foundation for the majority opinion in a later case, even though it can take 50 years to get from a case like Plessy to Brown versus Board of Education. So that's the nuts and bolts of how Supreme Court decisions are made. But before we wrap this up, here are a few key things to remember. First, there are a lot of hurdles you need to jump over before a court makes a decision in a case. Most certiorari petitions, there are usually about 8,000 each year, don't make it past the clerks or the Solicitor General and don't get granted. It takes
Okay, who can stop a writ of certiorari from being considered by the Supreme Court? The Solicitor General, the President, or Congress? Yes, so it is the first one. Yep, Jake, that is correct. So it is the Solicitor General. Yep, Chaz, the General.
It takes 4 judges to agree to hear a case, but 5 to render a majority opinion. Only the holding and the rationale supported by at least 5 of the 9 justices becomes binding precedent for lower courts. Dissents and concurrences may be fun and interesting to read, especially if there are pictures, and they may include important legal ideas, but lower courts don't need to follow them. So that's how the court works procedurally, but there's another way to think about Supreme Court decision making. To really understand the Supreme Court, we need to consider...
Okay, what becomes binding precedent for lower courts? The writ, the dissent, or the holding? Which one do we think it is? Yes, so Corbin, I see a 3, which is the holding, and you are correct. That is the right answer. Yay! Good job. So it is the holding and the rationale. So the holding would be, here's the majority's decision. At least 5 of them said that this is what it's going to be. They have it, and then their rationale. Yep. So I will continue on this, and then
Consider the thinking behind judicial decisions.
the last question is write one thing you learned after watching the video. So just write 1 to 2 sentences really quick of something you learned or found interesting. I'm going to end the recording